There is an animal in Africa that laughs. Not in the way we use that word loosely, not in the way a crow seems clever or a dolphin seems playful, but actually, genuinely, unmistakably laughs. A sound that rises in pitch and breaks apart in the middle and comes out the other side sounding so unsettlingly close to human hysteria that people who hear it alone in the African dark for the first time feel something very old and very deep in their nervous system stand up and pay attention. The sound carries for kilometers across the savanna. It bounces off kapaches and travels through acacia scrub and arrives in your ears with a quality that is difficult to describe, except to say that it sounds like something that knows something you do not, like something that has seen the punchline of a joke that has not been told yet. That sound belongs to the spotted hyena. And when you have spent enough time understanding what the spotted hyena actually is, what it can do, how it lives, how it thinks, how it has survived and thrived across the most brutally competitive ecosystem on Earth for millions of years, you begin to suspect that the laugh is not random, that maybe it knows exactly what it sounds like, that maybe the joke is on everyone who ever looked at a hyena and saw something lesser. Subscribe right now if you want to understand the wild the way it actually works. Not the simplified version, not the cartoon villain version, but the real thing, the deep thing, the version that will permanently change the way you watch nature. Because almost everything you think you know about hyenas is wrong, and the truth is so much more interesting. Let us start with the most basic thing, the thing that has been wrong in the popular imagination for so long that correcting it still feels slightly shocking to people who hear it. Hyenas are not related to dogs. They are not a kind of wild dog. They are not a failed version of a canid that evolution abandoned halfway through. They belong to a completely separate order of carnivore, the suborder Feliformia, which means they are more closely related to cats, and beyond cats to mongooses and civets and meerkats, than they are to anything in the dog family. The hyena you are looking at, with its sloped back and its powerful jaws and its particular way of moving, is not a dog that went wrong. It is something that went right, specifically right, along a completely different evolutionary path for a very long time. There are 4 living species in the family Hyenidae: the striped hyena, ranging across North Africa and the Middle East and into South Asia, a smaller, more solitary animal with a mane that erects along its back when threatened, making it look suddenly and dramatically larger. The brown hyena, found in southern Africa, a shaggy, bearish-looking creature that is primarily a scavenger, and a patient, methodical one at that. The Eardwolf, which barely looks like a hyena at all to the casual eye, a small and timid and slender-legged animal that has taken the extraordinary evolutionary gamble of specializing almost entirely on harvesting termites, and has won that gamble with a population numbering in the hundreds of thousands across sub-Saharan Africa. And the spotted hyena, Crocuta crocuta, the one that laughs, the one we are here to talk about, the one that is, by any serious measure of ecological success, one of the most formidable and sophisticated predators that the planet has ever produced. The spotted hyena's range across sub-Saharan Africa, while reduced from its historical extent, still covers millions of square kilometers. It lives in desert and grassland, and savanna woodland and montane forest. It lives in the Serengeti and the Ngorongoro crater and the Masai Mara and the Kruger and the Okavango and the Kalahari and the highlands of Ethiopia and the coastal scrub of Somalia. It has lived alongside lions and leopards and wild dogs and cheetahs and humans for millions of years and has not gone anywhere. When the ice ages came and the megafauna of Eurasia collapsed, spotted hyenas in Europe and Asia disappeared. In Africa, they survived. When human settlement and agriculture and hunting pressure reduced carnivore populations across the continent, the spotted hyena held on in places where almost every other large predator was extirpated. There are more spotted hyenas in Africa than there are lions. There are more spotted hyenas in Africa than there are leopards. When you add up every large carnivore on the continent and stack the numbers, the spotted hyena comes out on top. Not because it got lucky, because it is very, very good at being alive. Let us talk about what it is actually built to do. Because the physical architecture of the spotted hyena is one of the more remarkable engineering solutions in the mammal world, and it is all in service of a specific ecological role that the animal has been refining for longer than the human lineage has existed. The shoulders of a spotted hyena are higher than its hindquarters. This is the source of the characteristic sloped silhouette that gives the animal a slightly hunched, ungainly appearance when it walks. But this is not a structural weakness or an evolutionary compromise. It is a design feature. The massive musculature of the hyena's front end, its shoulders and neck and jaw, is supported by a skeletal structure that prioritizes power at the front. The power needed to hold down large prey, to carry heavy loads, to process material that no other predator can deal with. The hindquarters are lighter and lower because they do not need to be anything else. This animal is built like a machine that someone designed specifically to be very powerful in the front and highly mobile overall, and that is exactly what it is, the jaw. Let us spend some time on the jaw, because the jaw of a spotted hyena is one of the genuine wonders of the biological world, and people who have studied it professionally describe it in terms that sound like they are talking about industrial equipment rather than an animal's face. The bite force of a spotted hyena is estimated at somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 pounds per square inch. To put that in context, a lion bites at roughly 650 pounds per square inch, a wolf at around 400, a domestic dog at perhaps 300 to 400 depending on breed. A hyena's jaw is generating bite force that exceeds that of almost every other land predator on Earth, exceeded only by some of the very large crocodilians and a handful of other specialist bone crushers. The teeth that go with this jaw are not generic carnivore teeth. The premolars of a spotted hyena, the carnassials as they are called, are massive, blunt, and extraordinarily robust, built not to slice through flesh but to crack through bone. Dense bone, leg bone, femur bone, the kind of bone that a lion leaves behind after it has finished a kill because it cannot access what is inside. A hyena can. The hyena walks up to what the lion left, the bones that look picked clean to every other predator in the ecosystem, and it processes them. It cracks the femur and eats the marrow. It crunches the vertebrae. It consumes the skull. It eats what other animals literally cannot eat, accessing a food resource that is available precisely because no one else can reach it. The result of this bone processing shows up in something that hyena researchers have noted for decades, and that is one of the more unusual artifacts of hyena biology. Hyena scat, their droppings, is white, a chalky, calcium-rich white, because it is composed largely of the mineral residue of the bones the animal has consumed. In areas with high hyena populations, the landscape is dotted with these white droppings, visible from a distance, a kind of signature of the animal's presence and its extraordinary digestive capacity. The hyena's digestive system can extract nutrients from material that would pass through any other carnivore's gut unprocessed. It is not just that the hyena eats bones, it is that it successfully digests them, which requires an acid concentration in the stomach that is genuinely remarkable, approaching the corrosive capacity needed to break down calcium phosphate, the mineral matrix of bone, and release the nutrients locked inside. And here is the thing about this capacity that is worth pausing on. A hyena consuming a carcass completely, bones and all, is not just feeding itself. It is performing a genuine ecological service. The alternative to this thorough processing of animal remains is decomposition, which is slower and which involve pathogens, which presents disease risks. The hyena is a cleanup system of extraordinary efficiency, reducing large animal carcasses to almost nothing, returning their mineral and organic content to the ecosystem in a processed form that the soil and plants and insects can rapidly utilize. Every apex ecosystem in Africa where spotted hyenas are present is more efficient, more complete in its nutrient cycling, more disease-resistant because of what these animals do with what they find. Remove the hyenas and the carcasses pile up longer, and the pathogens have more time to multiply, and the ecological machinery loses one of its most important components. Now let us talk about hunting, because this is where the mythology has done the most damage to the hyena's reputation, and where the reality is most spectacularly different from the popular story. The popular story goes like this. Hyenas are scavengers. They wait for lions to make kills, and then they steal what the lions leave. They are sneaky and cowardly, and essentially parasitic on the real predators of the ecosystem. They are the villains in the story, because they do not do the honest work of the hunt. They just take what others have earned. This story is almost entirely backwards. Studies conducted in the Serengeti and the Ngorongoro crater and the Masai Mara, some of the most intensive carnivore research programs in the history of wildlife biology, have consistently shown that in most ecosystems where both lions and spotted hyenas are present, hyenas kill the majority of the large prey consumed by hyenas, not the lions. Spotted hyenas are primary predators. They hunt. They are extraordinarily good at hunting. And in a very significant percentage of the encounters researchers have observed between hyenas and lions, at a carcass it was the hyenas that made the kill and the lions that arrived afterward and took it from them. The lion is stealing from the hyena, not the other way around. The story has been exactly inverted for the entire span of popular wildlife storytelling. To understand how hyenas hunt, you have to watch them hunt. And when you do, the first thing you notice is that it does not look like what you expect a hunt to look like. It does not have the explosive drama of a cheetah's sprint or the ambush precision of a leopard dropping from a tree. Hyena hunting is more like a campaign than an assault. It is patient and it is coordinated and it is intelligent, and the coordination in particular is something that wildlife researchers have spent years studying because it turns out to be genuinely complex. A clan of spotted hyenas will identify a target. They will begin running it, not sprinting after it, but running at a pace that is sustainable for them and that slowly exhausts the prey. The spotted hyena has a cardiovascular and musculoskeletal system that allows it to maintain a high running speed, around 50 to 60 kilometers per hour, for distances that would destroy most other predators. They do not overheat easily. Their gait is efficient. They are built for endurance in a way that lions and leopards and most other large predators are not, and they use this endurance to run to prey to exhaustion over distances that can exceed several kilometers. While this is happening, the clan is communicating. The whooping calls and giggles and the faster, higher sounds of the hunt are all carrying information. They are coordinating positions. They are calling in clan members from different directions. They are effectively surrounding the prey animal, shifting the angles of pursuit in ways that cut off escape routes and force direction changes that tire the animal more quickly. This is not instinct in the simple sense. This is coordinated group action, requiring each individual to track the positions of multiple clan members, anticipate their movements, adjust its own behavior in response to what others are doing, and make decisions in real time about how to position itself for the optimal moment to close in. The prey they hunt is not small. Spotted hyenas regularly hunt and kill wildebeest, zebra, buffalo, and even young or weakened giraffe. A wildebeest weighs somewhere between 120 and 270 kilograms. A zebra weighs 300 to 450 kilograms. A clan of spotted hyenas hunting zebra is not picking off a small or vulnerable animal. It is engaging in a serious and genuinely dangerous pursuit of an animal that can kick hard enough to break bones, and killing it through the combined effort of multiple individuals, applying the endurance and the coordination. and the tremendous bite force that the biology has given them. When the kill happens, it is fast. It is not the neat clinical kill of a big cat, the precise bite to the throat or the muzzle. Hyenas kill by disembowelment and by crushing vital structures with their jaws. It is brutal and it is effective and it is over quickly because the clan descends together and processes the carcass at extraordinary speed. A clan of spotted hyenas can reduce a wildebeest to bone fragments in under 15 minutes, not clean the flesh from the bones in 15 minutes, eat the entire animal, flesh and organs, and most of the bone material in 15 minutes. The speed of consumption is a survival strategy. It is how they protect the kill from being stolen. If the carcass is processed before the lions arrive, there is nothing to steal. Now let us talk about the society these animals have built. Because the social structure of a spotted hyena clan is, in terms of its complexity and the behaviors it produces, as interesting as anything in the animal kingdom, including the social structures of our closest primate relatives. A spotted hyena clan can range in size from a handful of animals to 80 or more, depending on the availability of prey in the territory. The largest clans ever recorded have exceeded 100 individuals. These are not loose aggregations of individuals that happen to be using the same area. These are organized societies with membership structures and hierarchies and alliances and long-term relationships that persist across years and in some cases decades. The most fundamental organizing principle of hyena society is this: females are dominant over males. All females are dominant over all males, with essentially no exceptions. A female at the bottom of the female hierarchy still outranks a male at the top of the male hierarchy. This is, in the mammal world, genuinely unusual. In the vast majority of mammalian social species, males are dominant over females, enforced through superior body size and strength, and in many cases through coalitions of related males. In spotted hyena society, every one of these typical mechanisms of male dominance is absent or reversed. Female spotted hyenas are larger than males. The average adult female outweighs the average adult male by roughly 10%, which does not sound like much, but translates to a significant advantage in direct physical confrontation. More remarkably, female spotted hyenas have androgen levels of testosterone and other masculinizing hormones, that are extraordinarily high for a female mammal. These high androgen levels drive the development of anatomy in female hyenas that is unlike that of any other female mammal. The female spotted hyena does not have a conventional vaginal opening. She has a pseudopenis, a fully erectile clitoris that is as large as the male's penis, through which she urinates, mates, and gives birth. She has pseudoscrotal tissue that, in younger females before hormonal maturation, contains fat deposits that closely resemble testes. This anatomy is one of the most discussed and most studied phenomena in comparative reproductive biology. It is genuinely extraordinary and genuinely costly. Giving birth through a pseudopenis of this structure is difficult and dangerous. First-time hyena mothers have a significant mortality rate during birth, and firstborn cubs have a higher mortality rate than later offspring, in part because of the difficulty of delivery. The question that researchers have been trying to answer for decades is why evolution maintained this anatomy given these costs, what selective advantage female masculinization in hyenas provides that outweighs the reproductive risks. The current consensus points to several interconnected advantages. The high androgen levels that produce the pseudopenis also produce larger body, size, increased aggression, and the dominant behavioral orientation that allows females to secure priority access to food. In an environment where food can be scarce and competition for carcasses is intense, a female hyena who can outcompete males and lower-ranking females at a kill feeds more, survives better, and raises more cubs to maturity. The reproductive advantages of dominance enabling androgens exposure appear to outweigh the birthing costs. Natural selection is always a trade-off, and in the spotted hyena, the trade-off has been made in favor of female androgenization because the survival benefits in this specific ecological context are apparently substantial enough to pay the price. The female hierarchy within a clan is not determined primarily by individual fighting ability. It is largely inherited. Cubs of high-ranking females inherit high rank. This happens through a process called maternal rank inheritance, and it is enforced by an interesting mechanism. High-ranking mothers actively support their cubs in social interactions from a very early age, intervening when lower-ranking individuals challenge their offspring. And through this consistent support, cubs learn their rank relative to others in the clan, and the clan learns to treat them accordingly. A cub born to the matriarch of a large clan is, from the day of its birth, one of the most powerful individuals in that clan, not because of anything it has done, but because of where it was born. Male spotted hyenas, by contrast, are in some ways among the most marginal and low-status individuals in the large carnivore world. They are born into a clan and raised there, but at sexual maturity, typically around 2 to 3 years of age, males leave their natal clan. They emigrate. They must find and join a different clan, entering at the very bottom of the hierarchy, subordinate not just to all the females, but also to all the resident males who arrived before them. They gain food access only after the higher-ranking individuals have eaten. They gain mating access only if they can cultivate relationships with females who are willing to mate with them. And they cultivate these relationships not through force. Because forced mating is essentially impossible in a species where females have the physical and social dominance and the anatomical arrangement described above, but through persistent and patient social effort. A male hyena who wants to mate spends enormous amounts of time in proximity to specific females, grooming them, submitting to them, being present, being tolerated, building what amounts to a relationship over months or years before mating becomes possible. This means that male hyenas who want to reproduce must be socially intelligent and emotionally persistent in a way that is quite unlike the typical large carnivore male strategy of physical dominance and competitive exclusion. The male hyena succeeds not by being the biggest and the strongest, but by being the most persistent, the most socially attuned, the most patient in building relationships. The evolutionary pressures on hyena males favor a completely different set of traits than the evolutionary pressures on lion or leopard or wild dog males. Let us talk about the cubs. Let us talk about the beginning of life in a clan, because the early life of spotted hyena cubs is one of the most remarkable and brutal and ultimately fascinating stories in all of carnivore biology. Spotted hyenas give birth, with all the difficulty already described, typically to 1 or 2 cubs. The cubs are born with their eyes open. They are born with their teeth already erupted, functional, capable of inflicting serious wounds from their first hours of life, and they use them immediately. When twins are born, the littermates begin competing with each other almost from the moment of birth, before they have stood up, before they have fed, before they have any knowledge of the world outside the den. They bite each other. They wrestle for access to the mother. In about 1 in 4 twin births, one cub kills the other within the first few days of life, or wounds it severely enough that it dies of its injuries before the mother can intervene. This sibling-cide, this killing of a sibling in the nest or den, is known from a number of species, raptors most famously, but the circumstances in spotted hyenas are unusual because both cubs are approximately the same size and strength at birth, both fully toothed and functional, so the outcome is not guaranteed by size differential in the way it is in some bird species where the firstborn is larger. It depends on which cub is slightly more aggressive, slightly more vigorous, slightly better positioned when the fighting starts. The cubs that survive and this initial competition are self-selected for aggression and competitive intensity from the first hours of their lives. The mother raises her cubs largely alone without the support of the adult males in the clan, who provide no parental care. The high-ranking females in the clan will sometimes allow other females to nurse their cubs in an extended communal arrangement called a nursery group, where multiple mothers and cubs occupy a shared denning area, which provides some protection and social exposure for the cubs. But the fundamental provisioning of milk and food for the growing cubs falls on the mother, which means that a high-ranking female with priority food access raises more cubs and better-nourished cubs than a low-ranking female who eats only what is left after everyone else has taken their share. The cubs begin eating meat relatively early, at around 3 months, but continue nursing for an exceptionally long time by carnivore standards, up to 18 months or even longer in some cases. This extended lactation period is energetically very expensive for the mother and is made possible only by her ability to provision herself adequately through her hunting and her rank-based food access. The investment hyena mothers make in their cubs is massive and prolonged, and the relationship between a mother and her offspring in spotted hyena society is one of the primary social bonds in the clan, persisting long after the cub has grown into an adult and taking on independent life within the hierarchy. Now let us talk about what happens in the dark, because most of the most dramatic and most important events in the life of a spotted hyena clan happen at night, in the hours most people are asleep, and when the Africa of tourist brochures and daylight safaris gives way to something older and less legible and more honest. The spotted hyena is primarily nocturnal. It rests, often in mud wallows or in shade near water, through the heat of the day, and it becomes active as the light fades, moving out from communal denning areas to cover the enormous territories that a large clan needs to sustain itself. Hyena territories can cover several hundred square kilometers. The clan does not patrol this territory as a single unit every night. Different individuals and to smaller groups range different portions of the territory on different nights, and the clan maintains knowledge of its boundaries through the communal activity of pasting, where clan members deposit secretions from their hyena gland, a specialized scent gland below the tail, on grass stalks throughout the territory, creating a distributed chemical marking system that communicates information about clan size and identity and tenure to any hyena that encounters it. When two clans meet at a territorial border, what happens is one of the more spectacular and dangerous social interactions in the African night. It is called a border conflict, and it involves the entire clan being mobilized, the whooping calls going out across the territory to bring in every available individual, and then a confrontational encounter at the boundary that involves enormous amounts of vocalization, display, charging, retreating, and sometimes direct fighting that can result in serious injury or death. The outcome of these border conflicts is largely determined by numbers. The clan that shows up with more individuals wins. This means that maintaining clan size and internal cohesion is not just a social preference, but a direct survival advantage because a large clan holds more territory and therefore has more access to prey and more food security than a small clan, which is why natural selection has driven spotted hyenas to maintain the complex social structures that allow large clans to cohere. The intelligence required to maintain these structures and to function within them is considerable. Spotted hyenas need to track the identities and ranks of potentially dozens or even hundreds of clan members. They need to assess coalition dynamics and predict how other individuals will behave in novel social situations. They need to remember the history of their interactions with specific individuals over years and adjust their behavior based on that history. This is social cognition of a high order, and the brain structures that support it are correspondingly developed. Studies comparing spotted hyenas and various species of primates on social cognition tasks have produced results that surprised the researchers who designed them. Spotted hyenas, when presented with problems that require understanding social relationships and leveraging them to solve tasks, perform comparably to or better than many primate species, including some that have much larger brains in absolute terms. The hyena brain is not the largest brain in the carnivore world, but it is exceptionally well organized for the specific cognitive demands of complex, social life, and the evidence suggests that the social intelligence of the spotted hyena is, in its domain, as sophisticated as that of the animals we typically place at the top of the cognitive hierarchy. This intelligence shows up in the hunt in ways that go beyond the basic coordination we discussed earlier. Hyenas have been observed using deceptive behavior during hunts, with individual animals making movements that appear designed to draw a prey animal's attention in one direction while other clan members close in from another. They have been observed communicating information about prey location and direction through vocalizations that vary in pitch and structure in ways that other clan members respond to specifically. They have been observed adjusting their hunting strategy based on the specific prey species encountered, using different approaches for wildebeest versus zebra versus buffalo, which requires either learning from experience or rapid situational assessment or both. There is a behavior researchers call the test that is one of the more striking examples of hyena tactical intelligence. When approaching a potential prey animal or a group of potential prey, hyenas will sometimes engage in a series of rapid approaches and retreats, not committing to the full pursuit but probing the response of the prey, testing which individual is slower to react, which one limps slightly, which one shows signs of illness or injury. They are assessing the herd before committing resources to a chase, identifying the most vulnerable individual, and targeting the hunt to maximize the probability of success. This is not random charging. This is reconnaissance followed by a deliberate strategic decision. Let us talk about the relationship between hyenas and lions, because this is the most consequential and most dramatically loaded relationship in the African savanna ecosystem, and because understanding it properly destroys several of the most deeply held assumptions in popular wildlife storytelling. Lions and spotted hyenas have been competing, cooperating, stealing from each other, killing each other's young, and shaping each other's evolution for millions of years. The relationship is not simple predator-scavenger competition. It is a multi-layered ecological and evolutionary entanglement in which each species has profoundly influenced the biology and behavior of the other, in which the competitive dynamic shifts depending on relative numbers and time of day and terrain and the specific individuals involved, and in which neither species holds a permanent advantage. During the day, lions often dominate. A group of lions at a carcass will typically displace hyenas, simply because lions are larger individually, and because the daylight conditions favor visual assessment of force, and a single large male lion or a group of lionesses is a physical force that a single hyena or a small group will yield to. The hyenas circle and wait and make their calls and look, to the human observer, exactly like the scavenging thieves of the popular imagination. But at night, the dynamics change dramatically. Hyena clans are larger than lion prides in most ecosystems. When a hyena clan mobilizes at night in numbers, they can and regularly do displace lions from kills. The whooping calls that bring in reinforcements serve precisely this purpose, and a group of 15 or 20 or 30 hyenas descending on a lion pride at a carcass in the African darkness will typically succeed in driving the lions off, even if the lions resist initially. The lions make their own calculation and conclude that the resistance is not worth the injury risk, and they leave. The hyenas eat. The killing of each other's young is systematic and strategic on both sides. Lions kill hyena cubs whenever they can access a denning area. Hyenas kill lion cubs whenever they encounter them unguarded. Both species recognize the long-term competitive advantage of reducing the other population, and they act on this recognition with a consistency and a targeted purposefulness that is, in its context, entirely rational. The survival of one species in a given territory is partially contingent on its success in suppressing the population of the other, and both lions and hyenas behave as if they understand this, because over millions of years of competing in the same spaces, natural selection has made the awareness of this relationship functionally part of both animals' behavioral programs. There are places in Africa where lion populations have declined or been extirpated, and hyena populations have expanded to fill the ecological space the lions vacated. The Ngorongoro crater is one of the most studied examples of this. Within the crater, hyena clans are the dominant large predator, substantially outnumbering lions, and the social and ecological dynamics of the system reflect this balance of power. The hyenas of Ngorongoro are among the best-studied wild carnivore populations in history because the crater's contained geography made long-term individual identification and behavioral tracking possible in a way that is much harder in open systems. What decades of research in Ngorongoro have revealed about hyena behavior, social structure, and ecological impact has fundamentally rewritten the scientific understanding of what hyenas are and what they do. Let us go to the Masai Mara for a moment. Let us go there at the moment when the wildebeest migration crosses the Mara River, because this is the moment when everything we have been discussing becomes visible in the most dramatic possible form. The wildebeest migration is the largest terrestrial migration of mammals on Earth. 1.5 million wildebeest, plus several 100,000 zebra and gazelle, moving in a great circular pattern between the Serengeti in Tanzania and the Masai Mara in Kenya, following the rains and the grass they produce, covering thousands of kilometers in an annual cycle that has been running since before any human record of it. The Mara River crossings, when the herds are moving northward from Tanzania into Kenya, are the moment of maximum vulnerability for the wildebeest. The river is full of crocodiles. The banks are steep. The crossing is chaotic and panicked, and thousands of animals die in the river each year, drowned or taken by crocodiles or crushed in the press of bodies, and on the banks, in the grass, watching, the hyenas wait, not passively, not randomly. The hyena clans of the Mara have territories that include sections of the riverbank, and they know the crossings are coming. The scouts have been watching the herds build on the far bank for hours. The clan members have been moving toward the river since before the crossings began. When the wildebeest reach the bank and begin entering the water, the ecosystem enters one of its most intense and concentrated phases of predatory activity, with crocodiles working the water, and lions working the near bank, and hyenas working the margins of the crossing, targeting the animals that emerge weak and exhausted and disoriented from the river, or the calves that have been separated from their mothers in the chaos, or the animals that have been injured in the press, or by crocodiles, and are now staggering along the bank unable to run. The speed and efficiency with which hyena clans process animals in these situations is astonishing to watch. A wildebeest that is down is consumed almost entirely in a matter of minutes. The clan communicates, and the numbers build, and the carcass disappears into the clan in a way that looks like watching fast-forward footage of decomposition, everything accelerated to a speed that the natural world rarely shows. And when the kill site is vacated, there is essentially nothing left. Some bone fragments, some stomach contents, the grass already beginning to flatten back toward its normal position, and the hyenas moving on, whooping to each other, already scanning for the next opportunity. In a single crossing event, a large hyena clan in the Mara can consume more wildebeest than a lion pride would take in a month. The scale of consumption at these events is ecological, not just individual. The caloric input the clan gains from a major crossing fuels the reproductive activity and the territorial maintenance and the competitive capacity of the clan for weeks afterward. It is one of the reasons hyena clans in the Mara are among the largest and most successful in Africa, because the migration provides a resource pulse of such magnitude that it can sustain very large social groups. Now let us go somewhere completely different. Let us go to Ethiopia, to the highlands, and to a city, because the relationship between spotted hyenas and humans in some parts of Africa is something that most people have no idea about, and that upends almost every assumption you might have about how large carnivores and humans are able to coexist. The city of Harar in eastern Ethiopia is one of the oldest cities in Africa, a walled medieval Islamic city of extraordinary cultural richness, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with hundreds of years of history as a center of scholarship and trade. The old city, Jugol, is a labyrinth of narrow lanes and traditional houses built in a specific Harari style found nowhere else in the world. It has been continuously inhabited for perhaps 1,000 years or more, and it has lived with spotted hyenas in a relationship that is unlike anything else on Earth for centuries. Harar's hyenas come into the city at night. They have been doing this for as long as anyone can record. The history is contested in its details, but the tradition of feeding hyenas outside the city walls has been documented for at least 100 years and is believed by locals to extend much further back. The relationship may have begun as a pragmatic arrangement. Hyenas were allowed access to slaughterhouse waste and organic refuse in exchange for keeping the city clean of dangerous organic material, the same ecological service hyenas perform everywhere in Africa, but here formalized and deliberate. Over generations, it became something else entirely. The hyena men of Harar, a lineage of individuals and families who have maintained this feeding relationship across generations, come out each night after dark to spots outside the city walls, and they call the hyenas, and the hyenas come. Not cautiously or at a distance. They come in close, taking pieces of raw meat from the hyena man's hand, from a stick held in his mouth, from his face, their massive jaws, and their tremendous bite force, operating with a delicacy and a precision that is extraordinary to witness. These are wild-spotted hyenas. They have not been raised in captivity. They have not been domesticated. They are free to go wherever they want across the surrounding landscape, and they do, hunting and scavenging through the night. But they come to the feeding spots, and they interact with these specific humans in a way that demonstrates a sophisticated recognition of individual identity and a calibrated assessment of safety that reflects the hyena intelligence we have been discussing. The hyenas of Harar have names. The hyena men know individual animals by sight and by behavior. They track family histories across generations of animals. They know which hyenas are dominant and which are subordinate, and how the clan hierarchy has shifted over time. And the hyenas appear to have equivalent knowledge of the humans, distinguishing between the hyena feeders they know and strangers, behaving differently toward individuals they recognize versus those they do not. This relationship has theological significance in Harari culture. The hyenas are understood to have a specific spiritual role, connected to the protection of the city, and there are stories and traditions around them that are woven into the fabric of Harari identity. On certain religious occasions, the behavior of the hyenas is interpreted as an omen of the year to come. If they accept the offered food readily, the year will be good. If they are reluctant, something more careful attention to the spiritual dimensions of community life is indicated. The hyena is not just a scavenger tolerated outside the city walls. It is a participant in the city's cosmological life, and the hyenas do protect the city in a practical sense. The waste management function they perform reduces disease risk. The presence of a large and confident carnivore population around the city discourages other animals from approaching too closely. The relationship is mutualistic in its origins, even as it has grown into something richer and stranger and more culturally layered in its long history. Harar and its hyenas is one of the most remarkable examples in the world of a long-term, stable coexistence between humans and a large carnivore. And it works precisely because both parties have developed, over generations, a nuanced and specific understanding of each other that makes the interaction predictable and safe. The hyenas know the rules. The humans know the hyenas. The relationship has its own protocols, maintained by practice and by the transmission of knowledge from one generation of both species to the next. Let us go back to the biology for a moment, because there is one more thing we need to discuss, one more piece of the hyena story that science has been working on, and that continues to yield results that reframe what we thought we understood. Let us talk about the immune system. Spotted hyenas consume material that would kill most other animals. They eat carcasses in advanced stages of decomposition. They eat bone that has been exposed to pathogens for days or weeks. They eat the stomach contents of prey animals. They consume anthrax-infected carcasses in areas where anthrax is endemic without apparent ill effects. They appear to be resistant to, or at minimum highly tolerant of, a range of infectious diseases including rabies, which is present in their ranges, and which kills dogs and other carnivores with high efficiency, but which spotted hyenas appear to carry in some cases without developing the disease. The immune system of the spotted hyena is an active area of research precisely because understanding how it manages to process these inputs without dying of the resulting pathogen load could have significant implications for understanding disease resistance. More broadly, the combination of extremely high stomach acid that kills most pathogens before they can enter the digestive tract, a microbiome of extraordinary diversity that handles whatever gets through, and what appears to be a robust and aggressive immune response to the pathogens that do make it into the body, creates a biological system of remarkable pathogen resilience. The hyena is not just surviving contact with material that kills other animals. It has evolved, over millions of years of doing exactly what it does, a biological system specifically tuned to handle the most pathogen-dense food sources in the African ecosystem. There is a hypothesis in ecological immunology that animals with complex social lives tend to have more robust immune systems because the close physical contact of social living exposes individuals to more pathogens more frequently, and the animals that survive and reproduce successfully in these conditions are those with immune systems capable of handling the load. Spotted hyenas live in large clans with substantial physical contact, including the communal greeting ceremonies where clan members sniff and investigate each other's genitalia in a behavior that serves both social bonding and chemical information exchange. They handle heavily contaminated food sources as a core part of their ecology. They have had millions of years of selection for the immune capacity to handle both. The result appears to be one of the most pathogen-resistant immune systems in the mammal world. Now let us pull back. Let us look at all of this from a distance and think about what it means. The spotted hyena is, by the metrics that matter in evolutionary biology, one of the most successful large carnivores that has ever lived. It has survived everything the Pleistocene threw at it, the ice ages, the extinction pulses, the arrival of modern humans with their weapons and their fire. It has outlasted the cave hyena, its European and Asian relative, which disappeared along with the woolly mammoth and the cave lion. It has maintained populations across a substantial portion of sub-Saharan Africa, despite a century of systematic persecution by humans who believed the myths about it, rather than looking at what the animal actually is. It hunts like a master, and it organizes like a general, and it thinks like a strategist, and it digests like an industrial processor, and it navigates social complexity like a creature that has been doing exactly this for a very long time because